Now an update that literally went viral here on Rick's List. It's the Joe Sestak job offer that just doesn't seem to be going away quietly. The U.S. Office of Special Counsel is now considering a request to open an investigation into what Republicans would like to call the White House job offer scandal. Democrats tell me this is all old news, a closed matter, and by the way, it happens all the time. Really? Jobs, appointments offered by the White House to lure candidates out of political races all the time? Apparently so, because there are now 2 Senate races that we know of where the White House directly tried to determine who would and would not run in a Democratic primary.
Thank you all very much.
It's the job that really wasn't a job that first started this mess.
Did the president, did the White House offer you the Secretary of the Navy gig?
And the answer is, I said I was offered something. I don't have to go beyond that.
Congressman Joe Sestak telling our Rick Sanchez there was an offer, but later backtracking, as the White House tried to explain in a statement. It was actually Bill Clinton intervening on behalf of White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel, who was offering not a job, but a non-paid and yet not fully disclosed position on an advisory board. If Sestak would just get out of the race against fellow Democrat Arlen Specter. The White House lawyer's conclusion? No paying job, so no crime. A little harder to explain, though, is what happened in Colorado.
But he was not a friend?
No.
He called out of the blue?
He called me in September of '09.
It was September of last year. Andrew Romanoff, the former Democratic State House Speaker, had decided to run for U.S. Senate. The problem, the White House already had its man running for U.S. Senate in Colorado, the appointed Senator Michael Bennet. Suddenly, on the phone with Andrew Romanoff, and out of the blue, was Deputy White House Chief of Staff Jim Messina, asking Romanoff if he was interested in 3 high-paying positions with the administration.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff calls you up, says there may be a job for you, or positions open. What, a day later, 2 days later, you get an email with 3 positions. Same day.
Same conversation.
All 3 jobs, pretty good.
Well,
right?
The job I'm running for is the U.S. Senate.
Romanoff is trying to downplay the incident, sort of. He agrees with the White House no job offer was actually made, but the email made it clear. These 3 jobs, 2 with USAID and the director of the U.S. Trade and Development Agency, were available should Romanoff not run for Senate. The White House explanation from a statement released by the press secretary, Robert Gibbs, was that Andrew Romanoff had applied for a position at USAID during the presidential transition. He filed this application through the transition online process.
When you applied or filled out a form on what? Something.gov, right?
Change.gov.
Change.gov.
Right.
Did you think that a White House Deputy Chief of Staff will take note of your login and remember, oh, hey, this guy wanted to work for USAID?
No.
The White House declined interview requests to discuss what happened in Colorado, and until we met him outside a hearing room last week, we weren't getting much response from the Colorado senator who would have benefited from Romanoff getting out of the race. The appointed U.S. Senator, Michael Bennet, whose campaign admits he did know about the White House intervention in advance.
Did you ask Messina, hey, don't offer him a job, don't offer him these positions?
No, that's not for me to do. My job is to run the primary race that I'm running, and that's what I'm doing.
I understand that, but my question regards to the White House basically meddling in the Colorado Democratic primary. Do you think that it's the White House's role to try to decide who can and cannot run in your state's primary?
No, I certainly don't think it's the White House's role.
Bennett's Democratic primary opponent, Andrew Romanoff, says he doesn't want to politicize what happened, but it is giving him a chance to brand himself as a true outsider.
I think it's a fact that my opponent has become one of the top 10 recipients of Wall Street cash. He serves on the banking committee and has taken money from Goldman Sachs and other investment banks. He serves on the healthcare committee and has taken a great deal of money from the insurance industry and the
Mr. Romanoff,
companies.
he's supported by the White House.
That's true, too.
Republicans smell blood. They are calling for investigations, want to know if laws were broken, and especially if the president knew. The White House insists the answer is no.
Is that feasible? Sure. That in 2 Senate races where the White House administration was trying to intervene to get rid of one of the primary candidates, The president wouldn't know what his deputy chief of staff or White House chief of staff
I
was
certainly
doing?
don't have any reason to doubt what the White House has said about that.
Well, Republicans want to know for sure and are demanding to have proof of that. But right now, they're getting absolutely zero response from the White House. So does this happen all the time, really? Or could this be what critics say is what's done all the time in Chicago, where the president, and more importantly in this case, his chief of staff, learned to play hardball politics? Well, one guy who should know, Andy Shaw, executive director of the Better Government Association, former political reporter right there in Chicago, Andy. And I mean, there's a famous guy going on trial right now about a job in Chicago. We can't ignore that fact. But does this really happen all the time and we're just hearing about it?
Let me first, Drew, talk about the delicious irony of a Drew interviewing an Andy about the transgressions of an Andrew. This seems like we're kind of on top of all of it, huh, guys?
It's perfect.
Look, I wish I could feel a sense of outrage, because as the head of a good government organization, I like nothing better than to call out politicians and public officials for transgressions. But by Chicago and Illinois standards, this is a joke. This is an administration which needs allies in the Democratic Senate, basically taking a public official, a distinctive public official, who is the Speaker of the Colorado House, and trying to find a fit for him for a job in some foreign affairs-related area. He comes from Colorado, which has a large Latino population. In a sense, this is just the essence of politics. Would you not expect a president to try to maintain a friendly Democratic senator in a state rather than take a chance on a competitor? Now, if money had been suggested here, some kind of quid pro quo that was financial in nature, retire a campaign debt, something like that, then this would definitely be untoward. But a conversation about seeking a job, which, by the way, Mr. Romanoff had been looking for anyway, a conversation about an appropriate job for a qualified individual, that's not pay to play. That would be laughed off the pages of the newspapers and off the screens of television here in Chicago, because this is just basic, everyday politics.
I get that, but, you know, he's 10 months beforehand he applied for this job. It's only when he becomes a Senate candidate or is talking about being a Senate candidate that he gets a call from the White House. And you say there's no money involved. These are jobs of $150,000 and north of there. I mean, it's not money coming out of a back pocket. If not illegal, isn't it somewhat unethical or hypocritical for this hope and change government administration to be doing this kind of stuff?
Well, that's the hot button you have pressed. It is a question of business as usual. And yes, in fact, this is business as usual. So if Obama's being held to a different standard, that is, that the hope and change mantra was supposed to be accompanied by a politics that was above this sort of thing, you're absolutely right. It's untoward by those standards. But that's not realistic. Rahm Emanuel, David Axelrod, Valerie Jarrett, they come out of the crucible of Chicago politics. They understand hardball. And from where I'm sitting here in Chicago, if you haven't broken the law, then you really aren't culpable. If you're being accused of business as usual and something that may raise an ethical question, that's different. Yes, if you want to hold him to a higher standard, he hasn't met it here. He didn't meet it with Joe Sestak, but it's so far from criminal or really serious. It's so far from needing an investigation. I would urge the Republicans to focus on the problems in the Gulf and the other problems with the Obama administration and not waste a lot of time and energy on this one, because it's almost laughable. I'm covering the corruption trial of a governor accused of virtually selling the state to the highest bidder. This is hardly that.
Right. Rahm Emanuel may be involved in that as well. We can get that on another day. But let me ask you this. Couldn't the administration clear this up if they just answered the Republicans' calls to release the memos, release the details, get Bill Clinton to say what he actually said to Joe Sestak? It seems to me that they've gone into this huddle in a cave, and they're not talking about it, hoping it'll just go away. And you know what? Quite frankly, Andy, it might go away if we just stop talking about it.
Well, you know, I always think it's a mistake for politicians to circle the wagons because at the end of the day, you get in much less trouble for being forthcoming than you do for hunkering down. I think when you hunker down, it has a bunker mentality. It looks like you've got something to hide. It looks like you're trying to cover up the truth. And when that happens, I think it's much worse than being forthcoming. There have been emails released. The story's out there. I agree with you. Just tell it straight up that you're talking about maintaining a good ally there, and you're offering a job to someone who is eminently qualified based on years of government experience. If someone wants to make an issue out of it, go ahead. I think that you should be forthcoming. You're absolutely right.
All right, Andy Shaw, thanks for joining us from Chicago. See you later, man.
Drew, thank you.